Well, it's great to have you on, Jake. Jake here is the founder of Rep Vision. This video is all going to be about him talking about it, breaking down his story of how he came to the place of running this awesome SaaS that he's building. So just looking forward to hearing your story, man. Looking forward to hearing how you got to where you're at, and what you got planned for the future.
Awesome, man. Ty, thanks for having me, brother. My name is Jake. I'm the founder of Rep Vision. I've been building Rep Vision for the last 3 months now. Been in the high ticket space for about a year and a half, kind of merged it with corporate sales as well, was doing both at one point. And then went full time last summer to kind of just really start my own thing and, pave my way myself instead of having a boss. So, yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, let's talk a little bit about kind of the year and a half you spent in sales. You said you mainly did corporate. How did you get into sales? What were you doing before that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I went the college route. I was a college graduate from Coastal Carolina University. I was partying 6 days a week, didn't really have, any plans after college, didn't know what I wanted to do. My father's been in sales obviously my whole life. So, I was curious about it and then got into a medical sales, started selling some medical devices to orthopedic surgeons and stuff like that. That's kind of where my introductory was. Spent about a year and a half there, realized I didn't want to spend the rest of my life at a business. I didn't really believe in the product. From there, got into tech sales. But in that transition phase, I discovered remote high ticket. So I was too skeptical at the time to kind of go all in on it. But so I started DM setting, made my first bit of money, like kind of just in between shifts, like lunch and stuff like that. But jumped into tech sales in New York City, down at the World Trade Center, which I was an SDR. So cold calling, outbound emails, pretty much everything, man. And, that's where I learned like, okay, this is where like the grunt work of sales is. About 8 or 9 months into that, I was kind of getting sick of it. Some company culture stuff, like the people were amazing, but just kind of selling the product that didn't totally believe in, and then just kind of like the career path that I wasn't totally aligned with. So kind of dove kind of full steam into high ticket, started setting on a couple of offers, started making a little bit of money, started closing, did that for about 6 months until I ended up quitting my job in tech, and then was just in high ticket full time starting from May of 2025.
Okay. You said that you didn't really believe in the career path. Why not?
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, I think, this is a big thing that I tweet about this a lot. It's like, if you don't 100% believe in the product, I feel like as a sales rep, it could 100% lead to burnout. And I just wasn't totally aligned with selling payroll, right? There's a lot of companies out there that have been using the same payroll systems for the last 15, 20 years. And when you're an SDR cold calling every day, and the chance that these companies to actually even consider making a switch is like 1 in 300. Obviously it takes a toll on you, but also, I just wasn't super excited about payroll software and HR. So that's kind of why I didn't align with the career path, plus kind of the quota structure and how things were being ran in that organization. Again, I love the people there. It was very, very difficult to kind of move up in a timely manner where, you have plans for your life, if that makes sense.
So why transition into, I guess, a similar but slightly different type of sales, like, high ticket in terms of coaching programs, agency stuff? Why switch into something like that instead of just looking for a different tech company to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I think working at a very large startup it didn't turn me off to being in a sales organization like that, but it also just kind of made me realize that if I ever wanted to have that time and location freedom, of really just being able to make the amount of money that I want to make, and also just being wherever I want to be, right? Not reporting to necessarily like a harsh boss who has a quota to meet, who's probably super stressed out because his manager and their manager is all breathing down their necks. High ticket kind of gave me that assurance that, okay, I would be able to work from wherever I want. I can actually make good money doing it because I have the skills to actually set and close, right? So that's what really kind of drew me into everything. But in terms of actually like making that leap, I just wanted to make sure it was real at first and get my first kind of like commission check. And then from there, I was like, okay, obviously, like people are making money from this.
Mhm. And in what ways was it different? Because I mean, they're both remote sales. You're kind of just selling two different products, two different kind of structured companies. What was different about it that didn't allow for the location freedom and time freedom that you said that you saw with high ticket sales?
Yeah. So obviously, like in tech or like any corporate job, there's hybrid roles. So I was commuting every day. Well, 3 days a week. I was taking the subway to the World Trade Center and then back up to my apartment. And, during the wintertime, I was quite literally like barely outside, right? Like you didn't have to go outside. And just doing that for like 6 months on end was really eye opening because I just kind of felt like a cog in the wheel and I wasn't necessarily getting fulfillment out of my job, right? I was just doing the same exact tasks every single day, not getting commissioned on anything that closed, right? It's a totally different type of commission structure. And there were some big deals on the table, So, yeah, I think that was a big part of it. But with high ticket, just the pure, the, the pure how do I mention this? It's really just the fact that you can make $200 to $300 just by setting on a phone call, right? It's just so bare bones. I think that's what I was trying to say. It's so bare bones and it's so straightforward that if you've been in sales before, that it almost makes too much sense to not dive into, right? Because as an SDR, I'm pretty gritty on the phones, getting told no every single day. So now I'm dialing inbound leads and I can set 5 to 8 calls every single day. That has the chance to be $200 to $300 every time it gets on the calendar. So for me, that was very, to me, that was very, yeah, I'm at a loss of words. It was very, very attractive.
How'd you come across it in the first place? Because I mean, there's not a whole bunch of publication and stuff like that. I mean, obviously there's like Facebook ads and there's YouTube videos, but how'd you come across this type of sales?
Um, it was from like a very it was definitely just scrolling on Instagram Reels, just seeing kids making money online and then going down the rabbit hole of how. My first encounter with like a high ticket sales coach was, people that were actually running it outside of an office, right? So like it looked very formal, very, professional. And these people were making money, right? The kids that I was speaking to on the other end of the call were younger than me. So it really just kind of opened my eyes to everything. But how I got into it was from just kind of my algorithm, just pushing it in my face every day.
Mm-hmm. And I know like there's a lot of people that obviously when they're trying to make a transition, they want to do a similar thing, like you said, see if it's real, get that first commission check before they go, I guess balls to the wall. What did that transition look like for you? Did you use a coach to kind of help you get ushered along, or did you kind of just find a company, start applying? How did you actually transition?
Yeah, so I invested in myself 10K the first time. Was a very kind of dragged out opportunity. I wasn't necessarily the best looking back at it now, just knowing the entire market. But it did get me around the people that made me understand how the game actually worked. From there, I learned this skill of how to actually talk to people online through DMs and through setting and stuff like that. To where I transitioned to someone to quite literally place me on an offer. I paid more money, right? So for me, obviously, like I would consider it kind of like a pay to play type of thing. But once you're in, like you're good. So yeah, that's how I got into it. I invested in myself.
How big of a role would you say that first 10K investment with that coach played with you being able to transition in and learn what you need to learn?
Um, it it was I would say that there's better coaches out there. I'm going to be quite frank, right? Like I didn't have the best experience the first time, but just knowing that there were people actually taking care of people out there because I got to meet some of the people that were involved in the space through that coach. It opened my eyes. So I definitely think that it got me in the game, but I could have definitely spent my money better. somewhere else, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
for sure. And how important was your network? So you met people. How did those people help you?
Yeah, I mean, I say this daily. I think, even when the first time me and you met, it was just off a cold DM, like just looking to network, right? I think it's the most important thing you could do if you're trying to make money online or you're trying to, expand your business through, your laptop. It's just hopping on calls with as many people as possible. And my network has played a pivotal role in every dollar that I've pulled out of my bank account. It's given me more opportunities. They think of me for certain opportunities that they may have, vice versa. And it's been honestly like, posting on social media and then obviously just shaking hands and saying hello to every person that I could. I would attribute that to 100% of the opportunities that I've gotten.
And would you say that first program you invested in kind of gave you access to that first batch of people to network with, or did you kind of find them through other means?
I found them through other means. And, there's, I would say like different pockets of this high ticket sales world where people know certain people and then other people have no idea that others exist.
Mm-hmm.
I fell into one of those pockets that was kind of siloed from the entire industry, but they were doing well. So it, it introduced me to the game. I understood how it all worked. And then when I kind of started poking around into more networks, just having all of that knowledge going into those more, you know, broader networks who are people who are making money with cooler creators or anything like that gave me the edge that I needed to actually land, a couple of those offers for sure.
Mm-hmm. And how did you go about networking? Because I know a lot of people
Yeah.
want to do it, they know they need to do it, but that's just like, what do I do? Just DM people and say, hey, let's get on a call.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, at first, when I started posting on social media, I mean, I didn't have any proof that I was any good at what I was doing, right? I mean, I worked at a tech company. I was, I had that SDR background, but posting on social media it kind of just gives you an edge just because people can kind of get to know you a little bit more before they even try and talk to you. And then I just spent hours on cold outreach, right? Like I wasn't necessarily pitching anything. I wasn't trying to work for anyone. I quite literally just wanted to connect with people. And I feel like, especially in this day and age, if I'm getting a cold DM or some people, and you might be able to speak to this, you can probably tell off their reels how genuine that person is and whether or not you want to answer them.
Yeah.
I just felt like I displayed a very genuine personality on my Instagram reels, so people would answer me, and then from there we would just kind of hop on calls, talk about what we were working on, and then if it made sense to maybe partner on something, then that's what we would do. But that has paid, like that has been a huge player in not only growing Rep Vision now, but also just expanding my network.
Okay. So, you obviously had the sweat equity of just doing the work, doing the outreach. You mentioned content. Back then, you weren't running Rep Vision. You were looking for roles, you were looking to network. You weren't selling a product or service of your own per se, outside of your sales service, obviously, being a closer or setter for someone. What kind of content were you posting? Because some people, they hear branding, post content, they're like, do I gotta become an influencer? I gotta become a YouTuber? Like what were you actually posting as a sales rep?
Yeah. So I was closing and setting on a couple like multi offers. I was living in New York City, had bills to pay, right? So I was kind of offer stacking. And then that's around that time is when I realized that like if you want to make some serious money, you kind of have to have your own offer, right? So I started posting just setting like value tips, right? Just setting objection handling, things like that, good workflows. And honestly, I can pull a lot of that from my SDR job, right? Because I was an actual outbound SDR. Right? A lot of these setters who are 17, 18 years old, never seen the inside of a CRM, don't necessarily know what it means to hit the phones all day. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt like I was able to kind of speak that very genuinely in my content to the point where I created a low ticket school community. People started joining. I started getting offers posted in there from content, people coming to me for setters. And then that's kind of how I started to make a little bit more money on the side, just kind of doing my own thing. So the content was about setting tips, objection handling, all that fun stuff.
And you mentioned something interesting. Talk to me about offer stacking, because that's obviously business owners. They say no offer stackers, but in the best interest of the rep, sometimes maybe you should or could. Um, how did you get into offer stacking in terms of how did you formulate that relationship with the business owners where they were okay with it? Was it transparent that you were? Was it kind of like don't talk about it? You know, it never comes up. How did you go
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I mean, transparently, I didn't really talk about the other offers I was working on, but I did build relationships with my offer owners, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everyone's just trying to make money. And if you're, a human being and you could connect with someone on a human level, they're going to want to work with you. So I just made a good connection with them, and they never really asked about, what I was doing on the side or anything like
As
that.
long as you're getting results, right? Hitting KPI,
For sure.
no one says anything.
Yeah, for sure. And what I'll say about offer stacking as well, a lot of people that get into this space, they just want to be a closer. They want to take a couple of calls every single day. And, that's great. And I was closing on one offer and I was setting on another, but there's so much money to be made in setting that it's almost ridiculous. And when you also like, I wouldn't offer stack as a closer. I think it's very difficult to just have, sales sales frameworks across multiple offers when you're selling different things can kind of mix you up. Like, sometimes you won't remember if this person is for this offer or this offer, and then you're scrambling right before the sales call, right? But if you're offer stacking in a sense that, you're closing on one offer, everything you have to know when you're on face-to-face calls, and then setting is pretty much kind of like the same talk track for all offers. That's where I found, my brain wasn't scrambled across offer stacking.
So now I definitely want to ask about this because I kind of have not the opposite opinion in terms of what's easier to do, because I totally get your brain can be scrambled trying to close multiple deals. But just from what I've done as a closer and from what I've seen and what seems easier, it does seem easier to, let's say one company books you in 2 or 3 calls, another company books you in 2 or 3 calls. You're splitting your calls throughout the day. You're taking 4 to 6 every day. Easy peasy. In theory, as a closer, I've done it. I've taken calls for my own offer while taking closing calls for other offers that were only able to book like 2 or 3 a day.
Right.
So how do you both, like when you think about the setter role though, it's kind of more of a hustle, like you said, on the phones all day type role where, I mean, let's say you're working with a company that has thousands of leads in the CRM. Why dial X amount of deals for this company and then split your time dialing here when you could just dial twice as much on the other offer? How did you kind of justify that? Or was it just they had super low lead flow? What was your thought process there?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that also just kind of came from my experience, right? When I tell a offer owner that I have an SDR background, they're going to want to work with me. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of these sales reps may not even know what an SDR means, but they know what a setter means, which, in the business world, obviously there's 2 different roles. But I wouldn't say like I put a lot of effort into setting while I was closing, but I was making enough dials throughout the day to book, sufficient amount of meetings, right? So it wasn't like my main focus, but closing and then kind of just posting content to kind of naturally funnel people into my community was kind of like the main focus there. So I would make dials when I had downtime, but the offer owner was kind of just like, okay with that, obviously.
Yeah. So was your offer stack like I've got a closer role and a setter role, or did you ever stack like 2 setter roles?
No, it was just a closer and setter.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I meant. Because if you said, I thought you were meaning that you stacked 2 setter roles, so I'm like, well, why not just dial double on one instead of splitting your dials? Yeah. But that makes sense. If you're dialing on one, you're closing on the other. That makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. So you were, you got into the industry, you stacked some offers, did well, started launching your own thing, saw that there was a little bit more money, a little bit more leverage in that. How did we get, because like you're kind of going full circle now you're back into SaaS, now you're building Rep Vision. Yeah. How did we get there? Yeah,
man. This is actually something that I wish I learned sooner, right? So, I mean, when I first got into the industry, I was filling out an end of day report and I was just like, where's this information going? Like, I just didn't fully understand it, right? I was just kind of like filling out these numbers. I was getting told to fill it out every single day. And I was just like, all right, where's this data? How can I see my own data? What is going on here? Right. And about, 2 months into, doing all of that, I kind of realized I was like, I went to the growth operator. I was like, can you show me, where all this stuff is going? Like, I want to see everything. And he pulled out the Google sheet, he pulled out the Looker Studio dashboard and all that stuff. And I was just like, oh wow, you guys can see everything that we're doing all day. And I just didn't really understand that that existed. I mean, like coming from an SDR background, we worked with Salesforce with these huge CRMs, and like the reports were like right in our faces daily. But when it came to high ticket sales, I didn't realize how actually like formal it was on the back end. I thought it was like everyone just trying to make money, right? So once I learned about that, I started getting into the weeds of, how people were actually building this and how growth operators were building these out for people. And I fell in love with it. I almost had like a full circle moment in the sense that like maybe I'm not supposed to be on the front lines of sales, and maybe I'm supposed to be helping salespeople, track their own specific data, put together automations, make the workflows much easier, do all this other kind of like technical stuff, which I would find myself, in flow state, constantly building and coming up with new ideas on how we could streamline different workflows. And so for me, it was like once I found like that data layer in this, and it took me 2.5, almost 3 years to really find it, because obviously I knew, I was doing work on the front line as a sales rep. I didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. To make me like kind of shift my whole mindset and like, okay, maybe this is what I'm meant to do. Right. And I think the cool thing about, 1099 sales or being a high ticket sales rep, it forces you into a corner, right? Like, you have no money coming in, you have bills to pay, you need to make money. And it just takes you down all these different rabbit holes of people that you meet, opportunities that you get, and all these other things that you're presented with. And for me, discovering that data layer, discovering like the ops side of things was like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be taking sales calls. I'm supposed to be helping the team scale on the back end. So once I discovered that, I just started building out, very custom dashboards, Google Sheets, commission templates, end of day forms, all of that stuff for multiple offers. I kind of became the ops guy. And then by that point, I kind of just stopped closing and setting, and I was just building these out, and that's how I was making money.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And then, you went from the ops guy to now turning that into rep vision, because there's ops guys out there, and I'm sure there's tons of offers where it's like, hey, I'll, 10K, 20K, 50K, 100K, I'll build out an entire infrastructure. Why rep vision instead of that?
Yeah. I mean, rep vision, like unbiasedly, rep vision could do everything that those people would be paying a high ticket price for. That's probably going to take them a week or two to build out, with all the automations, with all the Zapiers, with the customized Looker Studio, with all the specific questions that they want the reps actually filling out. Rep vision can do all of that in 35 minutes, 45 minutes. And now these sales teams can start submitting end of day reports same day with all the specific metrics they want to track. Quotas, commissions are tracked automatically, right? Like these are things that you don't necessarily have besides doing it manually at the end of every single month. And now you're missing, $4,000 for your sales reps, right? It was just all of these little holes that I found in the processes working with a bunch of different people. And I would probably say the biggest reason why people have been switching from that model between spreadsheets, Looker Studio, and all that Zapier and stuff is because I take all of that and we put that into one place. So everything that Zapier does, RepVision does. Everything that a Looker Studio dashboard does, RepVision does. So that's kind of been the biggest thing for people when they take a demo with me, or when I send them one. It's like, oh wow, like I totally get this, because they're building out everything that RepVision does, hours and hours on end.
Okay. And when it comes to the types of companies that would benefit the most from Rep Vision, or just types of companies you've seen do really, really well, who should use it?
Yeah. So the easiest way to put this is a setter to closer sales team, or a SDR to account executive sales team that is running on Go High Level or Close.com, right? You can go, with HubSpot and HubSpot users and Salesforce users, right? But those are so robust, and probably for some more larger types of people that we're looking to target, because you can quite literally build Rep Vision inside of those CRMs. Yeah. But with who we're targeting now, these Go High Level agencies and sales agencies, or offers that are using Go High Level, It's very difficult to report on individual reps. It's very difficult. There's no commission tracking. There's a bunch of different softwares and spreadsheets and tools that you have to add on top of these CRMs. And when we integrate directly with them and we show them what RepVision does, I mean, I haven't really lost a sales call to, RepVision not being able to do what the company needs.
And what size companies are you usually working with on RepVision?
Yeah, so I think a big also distinguisher between, how backends are being built and RepVision, right? Some of these growth operators or some of these sales agencies, they're managing multiple clients. And they don't have a kind of centralized location to manage their sales teams, to manage all the data. Everything is kind of siloed in these own build outs for each specific team. We can actually take all of their clients, all of their sales reps, all of their tech stacks, everything, and put that into RepVision as well. So when it comes to who's supposed to be using this, and I genuinely think that when it comes to multi-client management, RepVision is a standalone product. I haven't seen anything else that can do that for them. But yeah, sales agencies, growth operators, regular offer owners that just want to manage their own sales team and don't want to have a manager take a percentage out of the top line. Like, it makes it very, very easy and streamlined.
Okay. And last one I'll have for you is, what's the future of RepVision look like? What are you planning on?
Yeah. So, I mean, we want to infiltrate a lot of these Go High Level and Close.com communities. I want to basically get RepVision in front of the high ticket space as much as humanly possible before we start going into other industries. But because that's kind of like the end goal, right? Is to attack insurance, to attack door to door, in the future, software, so AEs and SDR type companies, and really just infiltrate the sales industry. Because we have a lot of plans on how we can, accumulate rep data, and be able to prove to different offer owners or have reps prove themselves that they are the reps that they say they are and why they deserve the certain commission percentages or money when going and looking for more jobs, right? Because we are accumulating data on all of these sales reps, and they have actual proof instead of a Loom video of their numbers, because it's actually attached to a business that will also be able to vouch for it. So that's 100%. The end goal.
100%. There's so much you can do with that data, man. It's going to be so valuable and powerful. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm jakemarine.mgmt on Instagram. YouTube is just my name, and then also YouTube for RepVision as well. But yeah, mainly I'm posting off my main account.
Awesome. And if any of you are interested in checking out RepVision, I believe it's repvision.app. They can jump on there, log in, sign up, check it out, look at the integrations, look at the pricing sheets, everything, to make use of the platform. Am I correct there, Jake?
Yeah, everything is laid out for them. It's fully transparent. Most people know what the price is before they hop on a demo. So
sweet. Yeah. Sweet. Any final things you want to say? Anything you want to say for it's mostly a sales rep audience? Anything you want to let them know about, whether it's bringing RepVision to their team, to their managers, to their founders, or just any tips for them trying to get into appointment setting like you did, maybe trying to offer stack like you did? Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I mean, two things. We do have an affiliate program. More than happy to commission anybody who makes an intro to their operator, manager, or founder. But when it actually comes to setting or closing on a high ticket offer, treat it like a real job. Put in the hours, understand the craft, listen to people that are doing better than you, and you will make a lot of money. Just don't think that it's going to be some overnight thing if you haven't sold anything before, right? But it will be very, very fruitful for you if you just stay in the game long enough. Just don't quit. That's all I'll say.
Awesome. Well, there you have it. That is Jake, founder, CEO of RepVision. Looking forward to seeing where he takes it in the future. It looks like an awesome platform, and I can see it's growing fast. Maybe we'll have him on again in a couple months, maybe a year, and see where it's at that point. Thanks for your time, Jake. Thanks for all the info. Thanks for telling your story. And we'll end it there.
Appreciate you having me, Di.